Hello, Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today Fawn's Give It a Whirl Interactive Basket of Joy card and what I did wrong. Oh, what I did wrong. I did multiple things wrong. First, I forgot to push record on the camera. Secondly, no. So this is my color palette for my images that I colored. I am using a lot of the Ohuhu Oahu 60 pack, and then I did bring in some of the pastels and the skin tones to get the lighter shades in there that I was missing. If you are interested, that will be up on my blog. So I started with some ink blending using some Tumbled Glass Oxide ink, and on, I want to say it's my Ohuhu marker paper, so it's about an 80-ish pound weight cardstock. I just like how it blends those oxides for this, stuff. The second mistake that I made is I should have brought in the mask for the Give It a Whirl. I have it. I just didn't think about it until it was too late, like when I lifted this up. So I'm just going back in with my inks here, kind of laying them, using that MFT mini cloud stencil to add my clouds, line them up so when you use the Give It a Whirl, it's going to actually line up with my background. I wanted to do a full front card with the Give It a Whirl on it, not having anything sticking up or all the other things, and it worked. Now, you saw that you could definitely see where my circle was. Yeah, I couldn't fix it at that point. I just let it be. Sometimes you just gotta let it be. I did cut all of the circle, I guess half circle grass borders that comes with the Give It a Whirl and the Give It a Whirl add-on to kind of give me some options here. I did end up going with that slightly, rolling hillside one, as I could line it up better with the add-on piece from the Give It a Whirl. Now, I knew that I wanted to make sure that all of my little grassy pieces here were glued down because I didn't want them to get caught when I actually give it a whirl. Now, the good part about me messing this one up, I definitely knew where my circle was supposed to be. Can't deny that one at all, can I? Yeah. So I'm going to add this in and make sure that my grass lines up as best as possible here. I really wish they'd come out with a finer grass border dye so it matches the same grass size as the other. I like that smaller grass. Oh. Anyways, I'm rambling again. So I'm going to line this up, try to get it in the middle of my panel here, and then I'm going to bring in the actual bigger Give It a Whirl die, and I'm going to tape that into place as well. I want to cut these both at the same time, one pass and done. So I will run that through my die cut machine and then bring that back up. I am using the inside out stitched rectangle stack. Mine does not cut very well on the thicker side. So if I have more than one sheet of cardstock, it does not always cut all the way through. So I just make sure to bring in, I know this, I just bring in the scissors. I think if I'd run it through the die cut machine a couple of times, it usually cuts it well and at an angle. I just, it's just as easy to grab the scissors and snip whatever might not have cut all the way through. So I'm going to bring in my Give It a Whirl here. I'm practicing. So I did put one together. I will bring it in a little while here. The night before. I did not watch Kelly Marie's video on the intro all the way through. I watched her put it together once, and I didn't even watch her make a card with it. Life happens. I was busy, and I should have probably watched while I was making this one, but my iPad was dead, and my phone was pretty much dead because I just got done with my live with Kate. And so I was like, I'll just give it a whirl. Well, yeah. So I did come in and add that little pull tab piece before I put it together. This was my second mistake, only because I shouldn't have put it together before I was done decorating it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I did know that this just was easier to figure. Once I put the pull tab piece on there, it was easier to figure out where this piece goes. Like I didn't have to remember if it was on the top or the bottom, or you know what I mean? I knew that it was on the opposite side of where that pull tab piece was. Now I did do the double-sided stick adhesive and then glue because, you know, I have issues with the double-sided stick adhesive actually sticking. I did another one after this, and I did just the glue and rubbed it, so it was kind of like a thin, that's the way I would do it. The other tip I would say is make sure that it is right on that line or that cut line, because if it is not, you will have a gap. I don't have that with this one because I got it lined up very well. I tried to go with a little bit heavier cardstock on my next one, and it left a little gap. Yeah, it's not going to be on this channel because it's kind of cheeky, and so it will be on my Salty Card Creations channel. But I was learning, and so I think I've got it pretty much in the bag at this point. But so I'm bringing in that Easter's before and after stamp set that's already been colored, and with the joy of editing, you get to see me, oh look, they're already colored and die cut out. So I did bring in, this is where I realized I should have put my little critters on here before I assembled the whole thing. Like I was gonna try to pull it apart and it just wasn't happening. So I just ended up having to do it a little bit differently. I probably could have just added them onto it and then cut that line with the scissors. But I was hoping that by using the die it would give it exactly what it needed, and it didn't. Maybe next time, because I think it was the basket, because the basket has that cutout handle, so you go from thicker paper to no paper, and sometimes back to thicker paper again when you're dealing with the one with the bunny. And so I think if I'd have just moved it over so it wouldn't have actually been in the cut line there, I probably would have had better luck. Just, something to think about. Yeah, this was me trying to maybe wiggle it out, and it just wasn't happening. The other thing was that pull tab was close to my heart cardstock, which was probably, I don't think it's 80 pounds. I want to say it's maybe 70 pound at most, 65 to 70 pound. It's not thick enough for it. It's not thick enough for that pull tab piece, and it is not thick enough for that front circle piece either, the moving circle. That's what I used on my next one, and I'm going to try to remedy that today, but I'll let those that watch that one know how that went. So I'm just going to line it up. I wanted my baskets to be right on top of each other, so when I did the Give It a Whirl, backwards, but when I did the Give It a Whirl, the basket with the bunny would be popped up, or pop out. You know what I mean? Yeah, kind of. I like this one for the before and afters. I think it's kind of a fun idea and easier to me than the magic picture changer. Is that what that was called? I think that was what that was called. Anyways, so I cut those out, ran those through the die cut machine, and then I'm going to glue these down again. Now, the big thing with this one is making sure all of those pieces are glued down and secured tightly, especially on that cut line. I did not get it all the way cut, or all the way it glued down on this one. The underside piece just did not glue down. It like let up a little bit, and so I ended up gluing it down again and trimming it a little bit. I don't know if I would have needed to trim it so much, as long as it would have maybe been glued down better. I don't know. Does that make sense? The other thing is that rabbit, because he was like right on the center part there where he comes when you're giving it a whirl, I felt he was getting stuck, and he still kind of gets stuck, but I've played with it enough times now that I think it's moving okay. I don't know. The other thing is I did some extra thick foam tape. This is probably like Hefty Doodle thick foam tape, like their thicker stuff. I would definitely suggest a double layer of your regular stuff, especially if you're using heavy cardstock like I did. I just feel it gives it enough wiggle room and I don't feel like I'm getting stuck underneath. I had that problem with my second one. So that was kind of one of those. The other thing is I think if I would have had the Give It a Whirl all the way out when I did this, I wouldn't have gotten it stuck on that double-sided foam tape on the bottom side or the back side. This is where I had to wiggle it to get it out. And so I did pull it out, and yes, you can see that it caught on the one spot. And so I think if I'd had that out, it would have held the circle underneath in place for when I put it down. It did pop in back into that background piece very nicely, I thought. And so I was happy with how that turned out, per se. And yes, I did trim this one here, and I don't know if I would have needed to trim it so much. I was just afraid it was getting caught on it, and that was what my issues were. But, you know, I had multiple issues with this one just because I didn't know what I was doing. As we all have when we do a new interactive for the first time. It was what it was, right? So I also tried to I wanted to pop up the bunny because I wanted to give them some depth and dimension, and then I realized, wait a minute, my little pull tab thingy needs to go around. Granted, I probably could have lifted the pull tab up and over him, but I did not want the recipient to have to figure that one out. So I did glue him down flat. Now he can go over the top of that inlaid circle because that one doesn't actually move as long as he's not in the way or hindering the movement of the circle. The smaller circle on the Give It a Whirl, you should be good to overlap that circle piece. And then, of course, I didn't want the ears covered up by that other circle, so obviously I made sure that they were within the confines, so you didn't have that, I don't know, cut off bunny ears when the Give It a Whirl was out. So, and I really think my issue here was just because I went from an image that had that center handle part cut out. I think if it would have been solid, it probably would have been a lot easier. And that was where I was like, I don't understand what I did wrong, that my thing's not lining up. What did I do wrong? I was supposed to have the Give It a Whirl out with my basket with no bunny in it. And then you're supposed to give it a whirl inside, not onto the outside. And that's where my issue is. Yeah, I figured it out after the fact. Like, it was like, you know. Yeah, sometimes I have days. It, you know, happens to the best of us. I did bring in a sentiment from the Eggstra special Easter set from Lawn Fawn. I liked the Happy Easter, but I also like that May Your Basket Be Full of Joy because, you know, the basket that pops out is the basket that has the little Easter bunny that sticks its head out. And so I kind of liked that sentiment for that one. So I am going to bring in some Lawn Fawn simple sentiment banners. The longest one here, or the skinny long one, fits that May Your Basket Be Full of Joy perfectly. And then I will do some, you know, creative moving on the Easter one to make it fit inside of, or to, you know, make it look like it's the right sized one. So cutting it and then moving it over and then just cutting the little end off again. It's fairly easy and works well. So I am going to glue these down flat as well. And then I will put those onto my card. And of course, I'm going to try this again. And so once I have this, and it still gets caught on those bunny ears. So I think it just has to do with how that is lined up. I did like the strength of my paper on this one. I definitely would do that 110 pound cardstock for the Give It a Whirl on the inside piece there, or the two inside circle pieces. And then I did add my little arrow upside down from the die cut because, you know, obviously I'm not doing it properly. So it is what it is. It still works. It's just, you know, one of those, like, why? Why wasn't it working? And, you know, of course, after I looked at some more, I realized what I did. Yeah, here was my practice from the night before. I'd cut out the pieces. I wanted to make sure that I could kind of put it together. I just did not realize that. Oh, that was probably the point where I realized, oh, you're supposed to have the outside. Or they give it a whirl on the outside, and then you whirl it in instead of whirling it out. It is what it is. Hopefully, my struggles will help you with yours, and keep getting inky. Have an amazing rest of your day. Take care. Bye.